let's talk about an idea that I think a lot of us carry around, maybe without even knowing it. It's this deep down feeling that we have to be perfect before we can really be accepted.
It usually starts with this internal checklist. We tell ourselves, okay, first I've got to get my life together. It's like we think we have to fix all the messy parts, all the complications, all on our own before we're even allowed to ask for help.
And man, that list is long, isn't it? It's all about getting rid of our past mistakes, conquering our addictions, shaking off the guilt that just weighs us down, basically erasing all our failures. And honestly, it feels like a totally impossible job.
And only then, after all that's done, only when we've somehow built this perfect, polished version of ourselves, then we can finally approach God, as if he's just standing at the finish line, only interested in the person who crosses it flawlessly.
But here's the thing that changes everything. The Christian message says something completely different, something that kind of turns our logic on its head. God does not want you perfect.
And this leads us to the real invitation, which is the total opposite of that massive self-improvement project we thought we had to tackle first. The invitation is simply, come as you are. So you've got these two completely different ways of thinking. The myth, the one we hear a lot, says, fix yourself, then come. But the invitation of faith, it's so much different. It says, come as you are to be healed. Do you see the shift? The healing isn't a prerequisite to show up. It's the whole reason why you show up. And this is so, so important. This love isn't for some idealized future version of you that doesn't even exist. It's for the real you, right now. The you with a messy history, a list of mistakes, and yeah, the scars to prove it. Okay, but that brings up a really tough question, right? If we come as we are, what do we do with the past? What happens when our mistakes feel, well, just too big to ignore? Let's talk about how forgiveness actually works. So God's forgiveness isn't about pretending nothing ever happened. It's not some kind of spiritual amnesia. It's actually the opposite. It's about looking right at what you did, making a real choice to go in a different direction, and, this is crucial, not letting that past own you or destroy your future. You can almost see it as a three-step journey. It has to start with honest recognition. Then it needs a genuine change of heart, a change of direction. And finally, you have to break the chains that keep you tied to who you were. And that last one, that's often the hardest part. The past is part of your story, for sure, but it doesn't have to be your prison. Let's make this more concrete. Just imagine someone who made choices that, well, they devastated their family. They caused deep wounds, and now they live with that heaviness every single day. For a person like that, the invitation isn't to just forget it all. It's to acknowledge the pain, to change, and to let God begin the work of healing. The past doesn't just disappear, but the future can be completely rewritten. Or think about the powerful example of someone fighting addiction. If you talk to people who have walked that path, they'll often tell you the same thing. The real breakthrough wasn't the day they became perfect and never slipped up again. No, the breakthrough was the day they stopped hiding, the day they were finally honest with themselves and with God. And that's everything. When they came forward, they weren't suddenly perfect, but they were finally honest, and that was the key. God wasn't asking for perfection. He was asking for truth. So let's say you're being honest. You're trying to change, but what about the fallout? What about the consequences that stick around, the pain that's still there? This is where we get into this really profound idea that our scars can actually have meaning. This is a question that hits home for so many people, and it's a completely fair one. I'm trying, I've changed, I've asked for forgiveness, so why does it still hurt? Why are the consequences still here? The Christian faith has a pretty radical answer for this. It's this concept of offering suffering. Now let's be super clear, this is not about seeking out pain or thinking you deserve to hurt, not at all. It's about taking the pain that's already there, the stuff you can't change, and choosing to give it a purpose. It's deciding to let that pain transform you for the better, instead of letting it tear you down. A perfect way to picture this is a scar. It's the physical proof of a wound, but it's also proof that the wound has healed. It's become a part of your story. I mean, just think about how a scar works. It never fully disappears, right? You can't just erase the memory of the wound. But over time, the sharp pain goes away. It stops being an active source of hurt. It just becomes part of your history, a reminder of what you went through, but not something that condemns you today. And all of this really leads us to one final, really crucial point. This entire journey isn't about finally arriving at some destination called perfection. It's all about the process of walking.
So let's bring it all back to where we started, because this is worth repeating. God does not want you to be perfect. He wants you to be repentant, which just means you're willing to turn around, to change direction, and he wants you walking. He is far more interested in your journey than in a flawless arrival.
So if you're listening and your past feels incredibly heavy, if the consequences are still very real for you, please hear this. That does not mean you're rejected. It just means your story isn't over yet. There are still more chapters to be written.
So if you take one thing away from our time together, maybe it's this. God doesn't just erase the past. He redeems it. He takes all the broken pieces and gives them a new meaning and a much bigger story of grace and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me on Razonando la Fe. If this message was helpful for you, please give it a like, maybe share it with someone you know who needs to hear it, and subscribe so we can keep reasoning about faith together. I'll see you in the next one, and I hope you get to enjoy a really good cup of coffee today.